Hello everyone, I'm super excited to share this project that I did for spiegelmom scraps. Here's a picture of both projects that I made with the same sequin mix. It's called Hexafrost, and I have a link to the previous video that I already uploaded. I decided to divide up the video because it was going to be very long, and since this project includes not only the hexagon shaker pocket with the sequin mix but a couple other little charms that I made together, I thought it would make a good standalone video. This little hexagon is one of the cutouts from the insert, which was a free cut file. I can link to that down here, but really you need to go look at the other video for all that information. So the hexagon measures about 1¼ the short way by 1½ the long way. In addition to my fuse tool, I like to use the Simon Says Stamps grid paper pad because I have lines that I can line up with, and also the give in the pad with all the paper is just enough for the little tines of the sprocket on the fuse tool to kind of dig into the plastic and really fuse well. And no, it doesn't burn the paper as long as you're going straight across, and then don't let the fuse tool stay on the paper much longer than that. One thing that would have helped, as you see me struggling here a little bit, is to tape down or put some adhesive on the paper template because it kept shifting around on the plastic and it was really hard to hold down sometimes. Technique-wise with the fuse tool, when I'm using a little template, I like to make sure that when I line up my ruler, I leave a sliver away from the template edge so that I don't encounter any resistance from the fuse tool, like it accidentally hits the template. The other important thing is just to make sure your fuse tool is thoroughly heated up. I had mine plugged in for about an hour total between the two projects, and let me tell you, it was hot. I even burned myself very slightly, but that is really important to get a good fuse. The other thing is that padding I mentioned. I know it is recommended to use maybe a glass mat, but I found that when I tried that, the fuse wanted to just skitter across rather than really bite into the plastic. With this hexagon, I fused 5 of the 6 sides before putting in the sequins. Now the previous video, one of them I fused 4 sides, and then that was a lot easier for the sequins to be poured into the pocket. You don't want to stuff the pocket so that you can't seal it. You want to make sure that you can move over the sequins a bit so there's a flat spot near where you're going to fuse. That way your ruler will lay flat and help you get a good straight fuse. Now it's time to convert this shaker pocket into a little charm, which was really fun. I bought at Michael's a set of chain extenders. One side has a clasp and the other side has a jump ring. They're 3 inches long. There are 4 in this pack, and I believe it was with the 40% off coupon, something like $2.99. I used the smaller punch on the crocodile, I believe that's 1/8 of an inch, to punch through the shaker pocket. Now I'm so sorry that a lot of this is at the very bottom of the screen and some of it comes off screen. I didn't realize I put my phone on and off the holder as I'm doing these videos randomly. Sometimes I have to take it off to check something, or I get a phone call, or I have to leave my room. And I didn't realize this time it had crept up a bit, but you'll see better later how I'm opening up the jump rings and closing them and taking some links off the chain as well. Now let me just say, I am not a jewelry maker. I've never made a charm before. These tools, all I have is like a needle nose plier, a wire cutter, and the cone pliers. I can't even remember what that's called. So I was winging this. I'm sure there's a faster technique, and of course, if you have more jewelry making tools, it's probably a lot easier too. The wood charm is simply 2 circle wood veneers that I got from Color Cast Design. A lot of times her wood veneer has adhesive on the back, so all I had to do was punch a hole, the same 1/8 inch smaller one, through one of the discs where I wanted it, and then I stuck them together, and then I punched through the same spot to get the other side. And how cute and easy is that to get little custom wood veneer charm? I just looked it up, and those yellow pliers are called round nose pliers, not cone pliers. I find that they're best to put into the jump rings to pry them apart because they're so skinny. And then I use this needle nose pliers to close it up. And that's really all that there was to make the cute little wood veneer charm. And for my final act, I am going to make a charm with those two little felt balls at the top there. At first, I thought maybe I'd use the wire that came in the pack with extra jump rings, but I knew that wasn't going to go through that felt. Those felt balls are super duper dense. I didn't make the felt balls myself. I bought a whole bunch on Etsy years and years ago, and I've used them on different projects like garlands. But you can use pom-poms that you can buy at Michael's or Joann's, or even make your own pom-poms. In this case, I am going to use thread. I did go with the regular sewing thread because the felt is so dense. Now, when I've made garland, I've used twine, but I only have to go straight across once. And for this, I wanted it to be super secure, so I was going up and down several times. The trick is to try to stay straight through the middle. It's a little hard. Now, with this bigger felt ball, where I came out, I could go across to the middle, but I was having trouble with the smaller one. And I used the pad of paper to help me push the needle through. I just need to get it lined up properly. Push the needle through to help me go through all that density of the felt. Once I went up and down a couple times, I grabbed my chain and I'm going to wrap the end of the thread through the jump ring several times before going down again through all the layers. I struggled a bit because my thread was just too long and it can easily get tangled and caught on things like it's going to do right now. So I recommend that you, first of all, I didn't fold it over, so it's just one thread, but don't cut it too long. Like I think this is about 18 inches long, and you only really need maybe 10 inches of thread to begin with. Once you go through a few times, you'll still have enough to tie it off at the end. Although in my case, once I'd gone down again a few times, my final pass, I went up and I cut the thread without knotting off. It just disappears into the top of the white ball. So I could have left these all three separately, but I thought it would be cuter if they were joined together into one charm. So I'm going to have to shorten the chains and also join them together. I think this would have been accomplished fairly easily if I had like a long chain and just the extra jump rings and clasps. I just couldn't find the single long chain at Michael's when I went. So I hold this up in front of me so I can see them dangling and trying to decide the length of each one. I want to cut them at different lengths to offset them so they're not covering each other up but complementing each other. I mentioned earlier that these round-nosed pliers are really good for prying apart the jump rings. So I used that on the chain itself, and it worked out pretty good the first time. I'm going to use the same round-nosed pliers on the jump ring. Now here you can see clearly how I pried it open and held the jump ring while I slipped the chain on, and I closed the jump ring with the needle nose pliers. Then I fumble with the chain quite a bit. Like I said, not a jewelry maker, but I decide on the length for the second charm, and I use the round nose pliers again to pry apart the chain link. Those chain links are really small, so I had a little bit of trouble even though they're pretty pointy, those pliers. I go ahead and pry open the end that has one of the clasps and I add it to that charm, and then I test out to see if I am happy with this length finally. I stick it on the cording that closes the traveler's notebook, and I also try it dangling from the spine. Both times I'm happy with that, so now it's time to join up the other charm. This is a step that I could have avoided, again, if I had just a long length of chain and I hadn't put the jump rings back in the ends. But to join them up, I take out the jump ring from one charm and then open up the jump ring that is joined up to the clasp. Then I'll slip the chain in. I wisen up and I'm going to leave it open this time while I shorten the third charm. I busted open the chain, and this one was giving me a little bit of trouble. I didn't quite get the chain where I wanted it to, but I go ahead and slip it at the link that I want it onto the jump ring. Now 3 are dangling, but I had a little bit of chain left that I'm going to have to take care of. It just wanted to slip out while I was trying to hold all 3 together. Probably would have helped if I was facing everything towards me, but I was facing it towards the camera so that you could see what I was doing. I finally put down the other 2 and just deal with the last charm, trying to pry open the chain. It was giving me trouble, and then I thought, why not the wire cutters? And sure enough, it works because the chain isn't very thick. I guess 3rd time's a charm. See what I did there? Now I know. Just go ahead and use the wire cutters on those really thin chains. Very fast and efficient. My last step was to slip it into the jump ring and close that up, and my little charm is done. I really like how it came out. It looks really good dangling from the front and from the spine of the Traveler's Notebook. I could even use this in my December daily. Put it on the binder ring. Here are the close-up shots. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Also, I like comments. Check out the link below to the spiegelmom Scraps shop where you can get 15% off if you use my code IRIS15 through November 30th. And here is a photo of the other project I made with the same Hexafrost sequin mix. The link to that video is coming up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you here next time.